Okay, welcome to a series that we're calling shadow work or miracle shadow work. We could call it miracle work or the work, all kinds of names. But we do want to take a look at this kind of recent phenomenon in spirituality called shadow work. And as far as I've been able to find, I have found no reference to this in kind of the ancient texts. You don't find, at least by this name, that this idea of shadow work, you don't find it in the teachings of the Buddha or Christ or the yogis or anything like that. And so it's more a modern concept, maybe around the time of Jung, this idea of this psychological shadow. And so we want to kind of figure out what this is all about and to kind of lay the foundation for this whole series. I want you to consider a scenario in which, let's say you're camping and you've got your bed and you wake up in the morning and you are wanting to go outside and start the day. And it's kind of in that dawn time when it's not bright light, there's still a lot of shadows. And you wake up and you're about to go to the door, but you see a snake blocking the path out of the tent. And so one question is, what do you do? So kind of put yourself in that scenario. I need to get out of the tent, but there's a snake blocking the path. And well, let's say it's a poisonous snake. It's one that you don't want to get bitten by. And so notice that if that's the scenario, then there are all kinds of things that you've got to figure out. How do I trap the snake? How do I shoo the snake away without it attacking me? All kinds of things start to come up. There's this problem of the snake, and you have to deal with it. Now, again, in this scenario, say that the light comes in a little bit more. And as the light kind of begins to fill the tent, you realize that it wasn't actually a snake that you saw. It was actually just a piece of rope. And what happens now to the whole scenario, the whole dilemma, all the suffering about the snake is suddenly gone in the light of awareness. And so when it's just a rope, then you're free to exit the tent. And so in this scenario, you could say that the problem was one of perception, and that when the conditions were such that your perception was corrected, the problem you had imagined simply disappeared. And so there was nothing to believe. And notice how even beliefs wouldn't even help you. If you believed, okay, well snakes can't harm me because I'm an eternal being, that doesn't really immediately help you if you're face to face with a poisonous snake. If you believe that snakes are symbols of whatever, or that their animal message means this, like all that stuff, that's great stuff. They're great beliefs to have. But in solving the problem of getting you out of the tent, the beliefs don't help. What helps is perception. And I say all this because what I really want you to get in this series is that I'm not offering anything to believe. And so we'll say things, but don't consider them as true or not true. Consider them as perception devices, as devices designed to correct your perception so that you don't get trapped by imaginary snakes. Once you are free of the tent, then it doesn't really matter what you believe or don't believe about snakes. The whole thing is about, can I get out of the tent? So in this series, again, there's nothing to believe, but we will explore things that you simply can try on. So let me just check in with everybody so far. Everyone good for that? Nothing to believe. Okay. Now, in that process of not believing anything, we may have a device such as, let's say, I have no head. This is a kind of a classic mindfulness technique, is to imagine what it would feel like to not have a head. And everyone try that right now. Imagine just whoop, your head's gone, and all you are is from here down. And if you were to persist in this experience of not having a head, can you see how eventually you would begin to move more into your heart? And this is actually what this exercise is designed to do. It's get you out of your head, get you more into your body, more into your heart. And the longer you walk around without a head, the weirder, the more fun, just kind of the crazier your experience of this moment becomes. It's shifting you out of an intellectual center into this other experience of reality. And so if I say you have no head, or if we saw some ancient text that said get rid of your head and be free, and the idea isn't I'm going to physically chop off my head. It's a device, it's a pointing. There's nothing to believe there, but it's can I try on this experience and see what happens? And so it's with that approach that in this first session, we really want to look at the collective shadows that keep us stuck, the collective shadows that cause us to suffer. And we're going to say things about the collective shadows, again, as perceptual devices, not that they're true, not that they're not true, but as simply as things to try on. So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about this idea of shadow work. And let me know in the chat box what that even means to you, to say that I need to do shadow work. What comes up to... What does that mean? What does it imply? What does it say about you? What is the experience? How do you know that you need to do shadow work? How did you find that out? Those kinds of questions. So we've got this whole like new age spiritual community that's all about shadow work. And if you don't do shadow work, then you're spiritual bypassing, and that's bad. And you've got to suffer, and you've got to like really dig in, and it's gonna be hell. And if you don't do that, then you're not real. Has anyone heard these kinds of things before? And again, like I've never come across any of the ancient teachings that say any of that stuff. You've got to suffer, otherwise you never experience joy, those kinds of things. So when people talk about shadow work, the chat box, clearing out old karma, fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear in general, it's to be true to yourself, like being honest to yourself, loving the good and the bad in yourself, needing to look into what is holding us back, causing fear and triggering us. I'm not really sure what shadow work is. Is that because people didn't stuff their feelings down 1,000 years ago, maybe? Interesting. Okay, so all kinds of stuff coming up. And one of the common things is this idea that I'm being held back. I need to improve myself. And notice, if you have a desire to improve yourself, then that's the ego wanting to improve the ego. And the you that's wanting to improve yourself is the you that needs improvement. So can you see how the quote unquote broken you that wants to be better is the one doing the fixing, and how that's kind of not necessarily the best path forward? Does that make sense? The me that wants to improve myself is the me that's trying to improve myself, but that's the me that needs improving in the first place. So it's kind of like trying to pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of situation. And what would happen, well, let's just kind of start with this. What would happen, looking at that kind of broken methodology, what would happen if you couldn't improve yourself? Because has anyone ever done shadow work and tried to process something that happened to you maybe, years and years and years ago. And it's like you spent hours, you spent days, going through this stuff and reliving it. You went to workshops and you went in and you relived it and you like did all this stuff. And then you went to another workshop and you found out there was more layers to it and you still had to go deeper. And you went to another thing and it just kept giving and giving and giving all of this suffering. Has anyone had that experience where it's like you're fighting through the same thing for days, months, years, maybe? Okay, I see yeses coming in. And so if you don't get to the end of it, well, the shadow work mentality would be, well, you didn't go deep enough. You didn't suffer enough. There's still part of it you're rejecting. And there may be truth to that. There may be something there. So I'm not saying that approach is invalid. I'm saying that what we're up to in this course is designed to move us there faster. So we all are going to get out of the tent. You can make a big deal about the snake. You can learn how to handle snakes and deal with snakes, or you can realize the snake was never there in the first place. Either way, we get out of the tent. So this is all about speed. So what if you can't improve yourself? And everyone just try that on for a moment. I want to improve myself. There's something wrong with me. There's areas that need improvement. I can spend all this time doing self-improvement, doing shadow work, doing all this stuff. And maybe I get somewhere, maybe I don't. But what if I just started with the idea that I can't improve myself? Now what? Let's say I want to open a bakery. I want to, have the little coffee shop thing. And I'm going to start it. But then I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And I probably need to handle my limiting beliefs and do some shadow work. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to spend all this time, doing that stuff. And so notice when I'm doing that, what I'm not doing is opening a bakery. But what if I start with this idea that I simply can't improve myself? Let me know, someone, what happens for you. I can't improve myself. Yeah, getting ready to get ready. A vicious cycle. And someone says, I think this was in response to this question, I feel free. I begin to like myself as I am. Yeah. If I can't improve myself, feel suddenly at first it feels sad, but then I thought, can't improve what's already perfect. Yeah, notice the ego's like sad, like, oh, well, I can't do all this processing and work and effort and getting ready to get ready stuff. Then suddenly they realize, oh, I'm already perfect. And so, yeah, just like everyone said, there is this sudden experience of freedom. There's this relief. All this burden is gone. It's like everywhere we look, everyone is telling us, you have to improve yourself. You have to do personal development. You have to do shadow work. You have to suffer. It's going to be a long time. You got to bring all this stuff up from your past. You got to clear out your karma, and just feel like all the stuff that we have to do before we can live, before we can enjoy life, before we can be happy, before we can do what we want. And so if I can't improve myself, because it's my broken ego trying to improve my broken ego, and it's the broken part of me trying to fix the broken part of me, and that doesn't really work. So if I can't improve myself, then suddenly I feel free. Suddenly I accept myself. Suddenly, well, what am I going to do? If I can't improve myself, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to start living life. I'm going to be happy. If I don't have to suffer and do things that I don't want to do, well, then I'm going to be happy. You get that? How even the idea of self-improvement becomes this weird trap we get into. And not to say that good things don't come out of it, because, you can certainly do things and have insights, have breakthroughs. But is it truly necessary? And that's one of the questions we want to begin to explore in this series. So, shadow work. Who here would say that you are a good person? Okay, one hand, and everyone else is off camera. But most people would say, yeah, I'm a pretty good person. Would you say you are a spiritual person? Most people probably, yeah, okay. I'm good. I'm spiritual. And notice how as soon as you say, I am good, then you're also saying, I'm not bad, right? As soon as you say, I'm spiritual, then another part of you is saying, I'm not unspiritual. And so in this idea of being good, can you feel how you are highlighting or accepting or like striving to be a certain way, and also at the same time pushing away other ways of being? And it's a subtle thing, but can you get a sense of that? When I say I am good and not bad, I'm creating this little bit of a split, this little bit of division within me. If I'm good, this is how I think, this is how I feel, this is how I behave. If I'm not bad, then I don't do this, and I don't think this way, and I don't feel this way, and I don't whatever. And if I do suddenly have a bad thought, then it's like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I need to be good. And there's even more strain. And so can you see how when we begin to take on these dualistic identities, that the very act of taking on an identity creates a shadow? To say I am one way means that I am not another. And so I create a light side and a dark side. I'm actually creating my shadow. And can everyone get a feel for that? Or are there any questions about that before we continue? Because this is like a fundamental thing here. To say that I am spiritual means that I am creating a unspiritual shadow. And now, as this now spiritual person who has this unspiritual shadow, so like all the unspiritual things, that's not me. I'm going to resist it. I'm not going to allow it to express itself. And suddenly, here's this unspiritual thought that keeps cropping up. So I need to go in and do some shadow work and process whatever this unspiritual thought is and integrate it. And maybe at some point that integrates, and I have this new broader or more expansive sense of being a spiritual person. But as soon as I have this broader, expanded sense of being a spiritual person, then there's some deeper shadow that's now getting created. Maybe it's unconscious. But as long as I create an identity, then I also create a shadow. And so that's kind of the potential trap of shadow work. And that's not to say that doing that work isn't beneficial, because we can build better egos. We can be more effective egos. We can, you can reprogram your automatic mind to behave a certain way. You can use hypnosis, you can use subconscious reprogramming, you can do all kinds of stuff to make yourself automatically behave a certain way that gets you closer to certain results that your ego wants in this life. Okay? So we can build better egos, but as long as we have an ego, then we are also going to have a shadow. And so if we look at the yogic teachings on the kleshas, the afflictions that we suffer from. The first is called avidya, which is ignorance, and it's the It's the primary thing we suffer from. And you could say it's forgetting who we are. That ultimately who we are is the all. God is. That's kind of the ultimate expression. And if God is, and God is all there is, then that means that every one of us is already part of God, is already one with God. And nothing we can do can change that. Now, we forget that. So that our primary affliction is that we forget that we're already one with God, and we become identified with an ego, with an I am. We say, I am this. And because I am this, then I'm not that. And so this whole world of duality begins to emerge. With as kind of this now I am, as this ego, we have likes and dislikes. There are things that attract us and things that repulse us. So this is that, oh, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not unspiritual. I'm good. I'm not bad. I have to strive for, I have to desire what's good. I have to resist what's bad. So that brings us further into this world of duality. And then there's also the desire to live. And as an ego, we want to protect the ego, and especially the ego's body. So we believe that we're the body, and the body needs to live. And so all this stuff is built around the survival of the ego. Now, when you think about traditional shadow work, it doesn't approach the higher truths. The higher truths is that, we're already one with God. Our main affliction is that I believe I'm separate. It's when we get into the likes and dislikes and the desire to live, that's where shadow work deals with. And there may be some of that that's necessary to get to the point where you can simply do the higher level work, which is, can I realize my oneness with God? Can I wake up from the illusion that I've been under? Let me just pause there real quick and check in. Everything good so far? So shadow work is taking place in the realm of the ego to build a better ego. But the spiritual path is ultimately about letting go of the ego, realizing the ego was never there, and realizing our oneness. Any questions? All right, we'll keep going. If you do have a question, chat box. All right, so with kind of looking at all that, the various afflictions that we suffer from, we can now begin to look at some of the collective shadows that are believed by the collective, that are then adopted by the ego in order to continue as an ego, but which are out of alignment with the higher awakening. And so the first, you could say, is that I have a shadow. And it's the ego that believes that it has a shadow. And the true spiritual teachings say there is no ego, which means there is no shadow. Now, does anyone feel like they are ever held back or stopped by something in their life? Like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't feel like that's me, or I'm not ready, or I've got to get ready, all that kind of stuff. Remember, I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not saying that this is untrue. I'm saying that this is a device that can correct perception. And what you're going to find is that as perception is corrected, the quote unquote shadow work will happen automatically. So, is anyone got an example of something that you'd like to do, but you feel like you're not ready yet? You feel like something's holding you back? Let me know either out loud or in the chat box. A shadow that's holding you back. Okay, I want to write a play. And is it that you're not ready? Is it that anything else? I've never done it. Okay. I want to write a play. I've never done it. Is there I don't know how in there somewhere? I'd feel like a fraud for trying. Okay. Creatively blocked. All right, perfect. So it feels like I've got some really big shadows. Now, you can go in and process the shadows, and that there are times when that's valid, and that can be beautiful work. But going straight to the kind of the ultimate teachings, if I say that I have no ego, and therefore I have no shadows, and all there is God, and if I even say, just changing the words of your comments now, from I want to write a play to God wants to write a play, kind of get a sense of what that's like. God wants to write a play through me, through this body. When you say I've never done it, God's never done it, is that still true? Is God not Shakespeare? Is God not, I don't know many playwrights, Neil LaBute? Is God not, all these playwrights? So God has done it. I am God. Is God a fraud for trying? Was Shakespeare a fraud for trying? Was LaBute a fraud for trying? Or were any of the playwrights frauds for trying? And so it's can I let go of all of these? Notice that they're thoughts. There's no reality to any of them. If you take on the perception of God, that God is all there is. I'm part of that. There is no ego. There is no shadow. There's just my willingness to embrace the truth. There's my willingness to, rather than identify with my story, rather than identify with my ego, am I willing to begin to identify with the all? Will I let go of being an ego? Will I let go of feeling like a fraud? Will I let go of this idea that I am creatively blocked? Now, everyone, let's all be creatively blocked right now. Can everyone feel that? Like what happens if you try on, I am creatively blocked? You just feel this like your vibration just crashes. It's automatic. I'm creatively blocked. Everything feels solid. It feels sluggish. It feels like I'm moving through molasses. And notice that it's my mind creating that entire experience. If I say I am creatively free, can you feel the block just begin to vanish? And everyone try on, I am creatively free. Or I know what I want to write. I'm excited about writing. And if you dive into any of those experiences, or even just try on, God is all there is. Try on, I am as God created me. And immediately, does the block disappear? Does the block begin to lift? Okay. So when you try on, I am as God created me, or any of the things we said, can you feel that there are things that seem to have been in your space that begin to lift, that begin to disappear, that begin to vanish, that begin to clear out? Can you feel yourself becoming more free? Can you feel yourself becoming lighter? Even when you go back to say, I want to write a play, but I've never done it and I feel like a fraud, that it's like ego, like contracting into very concrete ego to, I'm not the ego, God is all there is. Can you feel how all of the shadows begin to be dispelled in that light. And so the statement, the kind of the collective shadow, is that I have shadows. The true statement is I have no shadows. But what we experience within this world of form is that when I try on the idea that I have no shadows, the shadows I thought I had begin to dispel. So there's still a quote unquote shadow work happening by recognizing that there were never shadows in the first place. So again, this is about correcting perception. It's not about this is true or this is not true. If you start trying to make this mean something or think about this or believe it, then it's a mess. So you can't get this by thinking about it, but it's in letting perception be corrected. So the idea I have no shadows speeds the processing of the seeming shadows that I seem to have been suffering from. So similarly, with collective shadows, we could say, I have limiting beliefs. Try that on. I have limiting beliefs. It's like, I can just like feel all these blocks like appearing in my reality. Just try the idea I have limiting beliefs. Suddenly it's like there's 15 things I need to go in and dig in the mud and clear out before I can be free. But the only reason they're here is because I've bought into the idea that I have limiting beliefs. If I say I have no limiting beliefs don't even exist, try that on and what begins to happen? Limiting beliefs don't exist. Jesus said, handle your limiting beliefs and then love one another. Jesus actually didn't say that. So let's all dive into limiting beliefs don't exist and what happens. I feel expansion. Anyone else? Limiting beliefs don't exist. Feel relief. Good. My heart feels lighter. I'm bright and wide open. Yeah. I'm feeling like it's like that miracle space, that formless, magical, creative. It's just like bursting into existence. It's it just feels like entering into the place of pure magic. In the chat box, deep joy feels like peace. And so, does anyone, well, like, what's an area where at one time you've thought you've had limiting beliefs? Anyone want to share? Is there an area of life where at one point, whether it's now or previously, you thought you had limiting beliefs about money, work, relationships, health, spirituality, anything at all? This is how marriage is. Okay. I feel like I've got limiting beliefs about how marriage is. Feel what that's like. That feels like there's a lot of work to do for me. It's like, okay, here's a bunch of work. Try that on, and then be in the same situation. Like, put yourself back in the same spot where you were experiencing the limiting beliefs, and then go into limiting beliefs don't exist. And feel what happens. So for me, it's like, I feel like I'm becoming more present in the relationship. I feel like I'm seeing more clearly. I'm feeling like there's choice. I'm feeling like there's my freedom of expression beginning to emerge. Like I can decide who I want to be. Whereas before, when there's limiting beliefs, it's like I feel trapped, I feel imprisoned. Now, when I put myself back there and I go into the limiting beliefs don't exist, there may be things within my space, and feel for this, that begin to come out, that begin to lift. There may be, whatever you want to call it, remnants of the past, old energy, old stories, old whatever. But it's like, can you feel when you go there that something within my space is purified? And it may depend on the situation. But notice how when I say that I have no limiting beliefs, again, something is happening to me. There is a purification. There's a quote unquote shadow work that's taking place. It's just happening so much faster. It's happening effortlessly. It's happening automatically. There's no long suffering involved. It's just a release. In the chat box, I feel energy movement without having to concentrate on the shadow. Exactly. So we're concentrating on things that are true. We're concentrating on the light. And what we find is that the light automatically dispels shadows and darkness. So limiting beliefs do not exist. Not that that's true, not that that's untrue, but as a corrective device, as a way to fast track shadow work, I have no limiting beliefs. Another big shadow that we have in the personal development, spiritual development community is I am here to evolve. Does everyone believe that at one point? Like we've got to evolve. Like we're here to evolve. We're here to learn. We're here to do all that stuff. And everyone try this on right now. What does it feel like when you say, I have to evolve. I'm here to evolve? What's your experience? I'm here to evolve. Maybe there's some effort. Maybe it feels heavy and hard. Is this something you're going to be done with today? Is this something you're ever going to be done with? And that there is, I mean, if I'm going to evolve, there is a sense of expansion. There's a lot like, okay, I'm going to evolve off into eternity or whatever. So I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong or right or anything like that. Self-flagellating, okay. So it can mean any number of things. It can feel like any number of ways. But notice that if I have to evolve, if I have to learn something, and I'm going to keep coming back until I've evolved the right amount or learned the right things, it's like just feel what that implies. The idea that I have to evolve, it brings in all these trappings of many lifetimes. If instead we say, I'm already God, and I don't, like evolution isn't necessary. If you're already God, if you're already perfect, if you're already whole, if you're already complete, and this is why we have that whole Compassionate Awakening series, is because this is what we want to bring into this work. That place of non-duality, that place that A Course in Miracles is pointing to, the place that the ancient teachings are pointing to, we're already it. And if we're already it, and evolution isn't necessary, how does that feel? What does it feel like if evolution is not necessary? I'm already complete. Or I am as God created me. What do you experience? Again, there's that relief and freedom. Yeah. Evolution isn't necessary. I'm already home. And if you put yourself in this moment, not that you can't not be in this moment, but if you really in that state of evolution isn't necessary, I'm already home, and you open your eyes and you be that in this moment, what does it feel like? Feels like bliss, feels like I can breathe. And if you put yourself in that state where you're already home, you're already complete, evolution isn't necessary, and you look at the people on the call, what does it feel like? Love and not wanting for anything. Yeah. So notice how the idea that evolution isn't necessary pushes me into a state of simply love. And that's another one of the kind of the ultimate pointings is that we have become identified rather than with the love that we are with egos and stories and limiting beliefs and blocks and shadows and all that stuff. Like we identify with that rather than identifying with the love that we already are. And the idea of evolution keeps me oftentimes from the experience of simply being love. Well, if I evolve, eventually I'll be love, right? I've got some work to do, and then I can love. Maybe I won't be love in this lifetime, but I'm going to work really hard in this lifetime, and I'm going to improve myself, and then in the next lifetime, or maybe the one after that, then I'll be love. That's what the ego would have you believe. Don't do it now. Hang on to your story, hang on to your identity, hang on to the idea that you need to evolve so that someday you can be love. And we're saying that, well, what if we get rid of this idea of evolution and just become love now? What if we just accept that that's what we are and what we've always been? Now, if I go there and try this on, okay, I'm just going to be love from now on, and then I don't know, I'm at the grocery store and someone bumps into me and says like, hey, watch where you're going or whatever. And I'm trying on this idea of love. What happens if someone's yelling, put yourself here, someone's yelling at you and you're just choosing to be love? Can you feel a reaction wanting to rise? Can you feel a trigger wanting to come up? And if rather than giving into that, which is the ego, if you stay as simply pure love, even as these weird reactions come up, can you see how there is a purification that happens? There's an emotional release. Maybe I feel compassion for them. I see them differently. Rather than seeing their story and me being right and being in my story, like, hey, watch where you're going. Like we can get into that. Or if I just be love, it's like the entire experience of this moment changes, right? I see them differently. I see myself differently. I even see life differently when I am just love. And if you totally bliss out into being unending love right now with no need to evolve, does even the world begin to seem different? Is the world more beautiful? Is the world safer? Is the world more of a playground? If all there is this unending love. Now, we got here by saying that evolution isn't necessary because we're already that. Now, again, here's the paradox. As I say evolution isn't necessary and just simply become love, and as I abide in this place of love, things leave me, and in the dimension of time, it seems that I'm evolving much more rapidly. Okay? So in the perspective of time, I seem to be evolving so much more rapidly when I simply get rid of this idea that I need to evolve and just be love. So we're not saying evolution doesn't seem to happen within time, but we're saying that when we correct our perception that we're already love, we're already God, we're already perfect, then within the experience of time, that evolution seems to happen much more quickly. That's why we're saying that it's not that this is true, it's not that this is untrue. We're about fixing our perception. Any questions about that? Don't think about it. Just kind of like feel the space. You can't figure out shadow work. All right, so the idea that I have to evolve sets me up for a long struggle. The idea that I have to learn something. Another, the kind of the basis of shadow work is the idea that you are a separate person. If you, let's try something. And I'm trying to think of an extreme example, but I also don't want this to be like someone may have experienced something like this. So don't go there if this is triggering or if this is like something that has happened. But if when you were a kid, if you were just like made fun of or just really bullied, abused, something like that, get a sense of what that could be like for a child. What does their worldview become like? If I'm constantly bullied, then I either feel inferior, I feel like I'm not good enough, I feel like there's something wrong with me, or I like completely rebel against that and become like bitter and angry, and I in turn become a bully as soon as I'm big enough to, right? And so notice if something happens to you, how profoundly that can shape your life. Now, if I tell you that there's someone in Uruguay who's being bullied, does that tend to shape your life in any way? Like, do you feel smaller because someone in Uruguay is being bullied? So, right, it's like, okay, it's no one I know. It's not me. And so, one of the big illusions that the big afflictions the yogis say that we suffer from is this idea that we are separate and that we are this body. And if I didn't believe I was this body, if I didn't believe this was me, then if something happened to this body, it wouldn't mean anything to me. Just like it doesn't mean anything to me if something's happening to someone in Uruguay, because I know that's not me. If I know this isn't me, then whatever happens to this also doesn't mean anything. Now, this is like kind of a high level thing. This is like one of the primary afflictions that we suffer from. It's when I let go of this idea, then I begin to experience true liberation. But notice how in order for there to be a shadow, there has to be a person. There has to be a separate individual. If I begin to open up to the idea that we're all one, we're all connected, this isn't me, but I am the all, notice how many or how much of my seeming shadow begins to disappear. So the collective shadow is that we are all separate people. We are all these bodies. If you know from the Compassionate Awakening or A Course in Miracles, the truth about us is that we're not these bodies. We're not even this world. Like none of this is real. None of this is happening. What is real is eternal love, eternal freedom, oneness with God. And if I begin to identify with that, do you see how there can be no darkness if all there is the light? So these are like ultimate steps. We're not just going there like snap your fingers, okay, I'm there. It's like these are things to work with. And so this is why we call it the work is because, okay, can I begin to accept more and more that we are all one, that I am one with God, that love is all there is? Can I release anything that says otherwise? And the more I do that, the more my shadows automatically disappear. Can you feel, even right now, if I let go of my identification with my body, and what happens if you let go of your identification with your past? You've heard it said the past doesn't exist. And if you were to actually accept that, the problem is we don't believe that. We believe the past is real. We believe the past defines us. We carry around the past. But if I begin to say my past doesn't exist, my past didn't even happen, and I just let it go, and I just open up to oneness, and I just open up to love, again, can you feel that shadows are being dispelled? Blocks, limiting beliefs, all that stuff is being dispelled. And not only that, like if I really let go of my past, and if I accept that God is all there is, and that the future, whenever it comes, will be as God intends it to be, and I can let go of any kind of care or concern about the future, and I realize that this present moment is all there is, and that this present moment that seems to be here isn't even real, and that God is all there is, and I just feel myself opening up into, dissolving into that experience that really can't even be put into words, but we try and we say things like bliss and love is all there is. And the more I just surrender to that, can I even begin to feel things happening in my body? Can I feel energy moving? This is a big basis of Yoga Nidra, is that when I get out of the way, the divine takes over, the divine heals, the divine fixes, the divine balances. I don't need to balance my chakras, because if I just get out of the way, the divine takes care of all of that. I don't need to digest my food, because if I get out of the way, the divine takes care of that. So all of the quote unquote darkness within me, all the things that need to be healed, all the things that need to be processed, the more I just open up to focus on the light, can you feel how all of that stuff is being taken care of by something greater than your ego? And the question is, would you rather handle your shadows with the imperfect ego, or would you rather let God take care of that? It's kind of a silly question when you look at it that way. I can go in and suffer and relive this past that doesn't exist and dive in. And there may be times when that's called for, because maybe there's some, I don't know, but I'm not saying that that's invalid. But it seems like this is a faster way, a more effortless way, a saner way. If I'll just get out of the way and let God do what God knows how to do so much better than I can. And so what if I let God handle my shadow work? What if I let God handle my manifestation? What if I let God handle my meditation, my spiritual practices, my healing? What if I just let God do all this stuff? Because, well, isn't God the only thing doing anything anyway? My creativity? Yeah. What if I just let God write this play? Like, how easy is that? Katie, you don't have to write the play. Just let God do it. God wants to do it. God's trying to do it. He's just saying, let me do it. So all that from this idea, or the opposite of all that, from this idea that I'm a separate person. Another big shadow is that things that happen here are important. Things that happen here mean something. If you had a dream let's say 2 months ago, and in that dream, someone smacked you in the face and said, "You're stupid." And they don't like your hair. Are you going to be upset about that today? And this happened 2 months ago in a dream. Anyone going to be like, "Oh, I can't believe my dream character did that to me. I'll show him. I'm going to learn lucid dreaming and go back and summon him and then like teach him a lesson." That's absurd. But can you see how from the divine perspective, that's what's happening? From the divine perspective, this is all your dream. All these characters are you. All of these characters are projections of your own divine mind. And none of it means anything. None of it's important. None of it's really happening. This is all just within a dream. From that divine perspective of all there is God, all there is that perfect, loving, divine presence. And anything that seems to be otherwise is a temporary illusion. It's here one moment, it's gone the next. But we make it real. We make it mean stuff. And because we do that, we suffer for it. This is that the first affliction that we suffer from is we forget who and what we are. But when I can accept that all of this is an illusion, all there is God, then nothing that happens in this world of form has any inherent meaning. None of it's actually happening. None of it's actually real. And if that person, when I was in 3rd grade, didn't punch me, then because it didn't happen, because it wasn't real, because the past doesn't exist, there's no shadow. And so I can, if I think of that person in 3rd grade that punched me, because I know the truth, can I forgive that person, realizing that it's just a projection of my own mind, that nothing actually happened, and so I forgive the illusion that something happened and set us both free. And there's nothing sticky there. You see that? If I can forgive what didn't actually happen, then nothing traps me. There's no identity created from that, which in turn creates a shadow. Now, if I say that really did happen and that really hurt me, and I've got to be tough now because someone did that thing to me, and like that creates a shadow because I've got to be tough and I'm resisting, like all that kind of stuff that we talked about. But if I say none of that even happened and I forgive, then there's no identity that's created. There's no identity that has to deal with that thing happening. Now, again, spiritual bypassing would be saying, no, I'm not going to look at that. I don't want to remember that. I'm going to put up this big wall and say, la, 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 that didn't happen. All there is love and light. Like, get a feeling for that. That's what spiritual bypassing is. It's like, put on your blinders. There's just love and light. I'm not going to acknowledge anything. And so everything becomes bigger. Everything becomes more solid. Everything becomes more real. It's like you're slowly being enclosed in this space. What we're saying is, well, if I say that, if I truly get that God is all there is, and that none of this is real, none of this happens, there's no wall, there's no resistance. In fact, everything's just now going through me. And so that bad thing that happened, if I say, I'm completely in the state of forgiveness, completely in the state of love and acceptance and oneness, I'm just forgiving myself in a dream. Can you see how it just passes through you? There's no resistance. There's just love. Now, depending on how real that has been in the past, there may be some events where in order to forgive, in order to see that as unreal, in order to return to love, there may be a profound emotional release. If I've been making this real for a long time, if I've been resisting this for a long time, and I begin to open my heart again, and love again and realize that this, I've been defining myself by that event for 40 years. And now I'm saying, okay, this didn't even happen. And it's like just this floodgate of emotions comes up as I love, as I forgive, like that can happen. There can be a profound purification that takes place. Now, the collective would say, you have to dig deep. You have to bring up old wounds. Old wounds are real. You're carrying them around. You've got to like dive into them. You've got to relive them. You've got to feel them in your body and like all that kind of stuff. And notice that in this approach where I forgive, I say this isn't even real, that all of that's happening automatically and effortlessly. There is an emotional release. I'm not focusing on negative emotions. I'm not reliving anything, but here's this release. And so that's how we know that something is happening, because there's some kind of transformation. So that was another collective shadow, this idea that I've got to dig deep. No, it's I've got to love harder. There's that quote by, I believe it's Mother Teresa. It's like, I found the paradox that if you love until it hurts, then eventually there's no more hurt, there's only love. And that's kind of our approach here. Can we love? Can we let go? Can we forgive until we get to the point where it hurts? And then can we continue to love beyond that? Can we continue to forgive beyond that until there is no more hurt? There's only love. So we're not focusing on darkness. We're not focusing on shadows. We're letting God handle all of that. All right, so that's collective shadows that kind of set the stage for the shadow work that we're going to be doing in this series. We'll take a look next at kind of the personal shadows that we suffer from, and then get into like the interpersonal shadows after that. But are there any questions just from today's exploration or from this approach to healing or shadow work?
I have one question about I tend to like when you were giving me like a Uruguay example, I was sort of like, well, actually, I just tend to take that on as myself a lot of times when I hear, like, I guess people call it empathetic or whatever, but I mean, in a lot of cases, I push those thoughts away a lot because I feel sensitive to it. So just like, yeah. I guess the approach is the same, just sort of, it's still a sense of separation in a way, but yeah, like how would you?
You push away which thoughts?
Like, cause you were saying, okay, if this kind of same thing happened to somebody else, you wouldn't react to it the same way as if it was your own thing. But I guess it is sort of my own personal pain projected in my idea of what someone else is going through, which is maybe called empathy or something. Does that make sense? I'm trying to figure out, like, in that way, it feels like I am connected to that other person and like collective suffering in a way. Yeah. So.
Yeah, there's a paradox that we're going to keep coming up against. And like, it sounds not empathetic to say, well, that's not actually happening. None of that's real. And so, if there's someone in wherever that's being hurt, that's being wronged, that's whatever's going on, to say that that's not happening, that's not real. When you do that, like what happens? Do you feel like you're blocking them out? Or again, do you feel like you're connecting to them? Do you feel like there's an increase in love when I'm aware that this thing is happening and I say it's not real, I say it's not even happening? It's like I'm able now to be love in this situation. Now, so again, it's a paradox. And most people are like, oh, that's wrong. That's bad. I'm going to be angry because my ego is going to feel better by being upset about this situation. Now I feel justified and I feel right. And that's where most people end. It's like, I'm upset, but I feel right because I got upset. I feel good. I feel special because I got upset. This is, very common in society. It's like, we're all separate. Something happens. Let's all get angry and like get in groups and be angry together and say, oh, this is all wrong. And those people are jerks. And we feel like we've done something. Like we all got angry together. All we've done is lose our peace. All we've done is lose our power. If, on the other hand, I say, none of this is real, I don't give all my power up to anger. I become love. And who's more likely to do something? The person who is one and is love, or the person who feels right and feels angry? Is this addressing your question?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my question was, I was basically saying that I tend to actually ignore my own stuff and like focus on other people. So it absolutely addresses it because it's the same. It's And totally. And like, so for me, it's sometimes I just have, if I imagine it's not real for them, like I can feel that love and seeing them in their true state and their true nature. And I feel that heals me.
Yeah. And this is part of the work we'll be doing is whether the focus is here or there, we can do this work and both are healed because it's all one. So if I realize that's not actually happening to them or that's not actually happening to me, either way, I'm getting closer and closer to that oneness. In the chat box, this reminds me of that discussion on self-importance. And notice that the more we take on these perspectives, the more our self-importance reduces. And so people aren't actually loving or even caring, really. They're just reveling in their sense of self-importance. And as long as we believe we're a self, as long as we believe this world is real, self-importance comes up. As we begin to say, none of this is real, none of this is important, then self-importance disappears and all there is love. Now remember, as you become love, the way you show up in the world is going to change. The thoughts you think, the feelings you feel, the actions you take are all going to change the more you simply become love. So even though we're saying this is unimportant, this isn't real, this isn't happening, we're still here and we're actually becoming more powerful, more effective, more in line with the divine than had we remained where we were. So there's paradoxes here. We say things are unimportant, and in so doing, we become more loving. All right. Any further questions for today?
It's not a question, but I'm like, as we're just talking through this, it's almost like in every moment, I just surrender to like this feeling that I really don't know anything. Like, it's almost like I'm starting from scratch. And every moment it's almost like, okay, then, and I could feel myself like trying to cling on, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's crazy. So I don't know.
Yeah. There's, the phase we're in right now is, am I willing to let go of all knowledge in order to have my perception fixed or corrected? So what if you don't know anything? And that's kind of the assignment goal for this week is, can I let go of all knowledge? Can I know nothing and just open up to this idea that we're all one, we're all connected, nothing is real, nothing I see is real, and let that be my work, let that be my goal? You could say, what does was it lesson 27 in the workbook? Above all else, I want to see. So what if we don't need to fix ourselves? What if we don't need to do shadow work? What if we don't need to do personal development? What if we just need to see clearly or see the truth? And so let that kind of be this consuming drive this week. I just want to see. I don't need to fix myself. I don't need to improve myself. I just want to see. And then pay attention to all the stuff out there that's about not this. It's about, let me have my broken ego do weird things to try and improve my broken ego, and like just see how much of the spirituality out there is focused on that. It's all like doing weird stuff that may or may not get me anywhere at the end of the day, when all I have to do is become love. See it all as unreal. All right. Explore, enjoy. If you have questions come up in the meantime, post them in the group. See you next time. Bye.